What's now weirdly acceptable in 2022 that was not acceptable growing up in your generation? Any type of hair coloring would result in serious trouble at school. I also remember tattoos being frowned upon as being found mostly on people that got out of prison. Access to porn. When I was a kid you waited for the JPenny catalog to come in the mail. Today, kids can just go to jpenny.com. Wearing sneakers to work at a Fortune 100 company. At the beginning of my career it was suit and tie, then business casual, and now I wear Stan Smiths, jeans and an untucked polo in the most senior position of my working life. Middle/high school students being allowed to have their cell phones in class. Being caught with our cell phone when I was a high schooler was an automatic detention, etc. Spent my whole life being taught to never get in a stranger's personal car. Now we have a whole business model built around it. Therapy. So glad it's being normalized. Not answering the phone. When we only had landline phones, yes, long time ago, there was no ringing phone that went unanswered. Now we screen, or just plain ignore, calls until we are good and ready to deal with it. Saying you met your significant other online. When I was in high school, I only knew one guy who said this, and the girl was in another state. His social standing plummeted. People have already said tattoos, but body piercings also exploded in popularity. It used to be girls could get their ears pierced, and that was it. When I was in high school, some guys started doing the one earring look, and tongue, nose and belly button piercings were starting to become popular. Two people using the internet at the same time. When I bring up housing and rental affordability in Australia, my dad and mother just don't want to hear it, and they just brush me off, as if I inhabit the same world as they did. Dad's first house was $70k, that same house now is $800, $900k. Now you can talk to celebrities on social media by commenting on live streams and tweeting them. Whereas decades ago you had no access to them at all, unless you personally knew them, were related to them, or won a chance to meet them. They were considered untouchable. Now if they do something stupid, you can let them know in minutes. Tattoos. Even when I entered the workforce in the early 2000s it was common for company dress codes to include a no visible tattoos policy. Fathers taking care of their children. When I grew up it was more acceptable for a dad to hand off their baby to their 8-year-old niece, me, than change a diaper. Also God forbid a child was naked around a man, that was taboo. And if every guy couldn't help but turn into a pedo around a baby. Oddly the cheap off-brand cereals I buy come in a reusable bag. Walking into a bank wearing a mask. I swear to the gods that all of the fashion that was mocked and made fun of in the 80s and 90s is now what's cool. I wouldn't describe it as weirdly, but declawing cats has only become unacceptable in the past 5 or 10 years. My wife got her cats declawed about 8 or 9 years ago, and the vet clearly didn't tell her what the surgery actually entailed, otherwise she would have been appalled and not done it. Now vets are all anti-declawing, as if they weren't the ones pushing it in the first place. Remember, young ones, before you tear someone apart online for declawing their cats, ask them when they did it. It is *very new, relative to other social progress, information for society. LGBT plus people, it isn't weird to accept them, but I will say back then, if your classmates discovered you were gay, daily bullying would be the best scenario. More likely you'd get a regular humiliation beatdown. I can only imagine what would happen to you if you were trans. Business casual. My dad was a suit and tie guy. So were most of my uncles. Hell, I had button-ups and ties on my first couple of jobs. Now it's jeans and no tie, colored button-up shirts, and tattoos are okay. The feel of how an office runs is vastly different than it was 30 years ago. Being a straight guy having a best friend that is gay. Not eating dinner with your family. Everyone's just doing their own thing. I'm 18 so I don't really know what to say, except in my country, India, Being gay was illegal till 2018, but now it isn't. I would have never guessed as a young lad that cannabis would be recreationally legal, and I could just drive down the street to a store and purchase edibles, flower, concentrate, hash, etc. etc. And how now it's nearly taboo to smoke cigarettes. What a flip. Jeans and sneakers at retail jobs, supermarket, Target, Walgreens etc. When I had jobs like that as a teen in the 90s, that was a big no-no. Dress code was always khakis/dress pants and some kind of dressier shoes. Being into nerdy activities is now cool. Like if you even openly liked Nintendo, you could get beat up. Public cursing, especially around children. FWBs. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Wids and slut shaming. If you wanted to get laid, you had to put in the work. Also, you couldn't find like-minded promiscuous people by flipping through a bunch of headshots. You had to seek them out, call numbers on bathroom stalls, and generally just look cool in a Trans Am with a Jane jacket and a Walkman. Crocs. Cool young people are wearing them now, whereas you were the crustiest warm-eyed creature for wearing them 10 years ago. This isn't weird, but mixed couples. I was in one in the early 90s, and we ended it based on the pressure we got from everyone. My family disowned me. I'm glad to see people can love each other openly as a normal family without people harassing them.